Nunnally Johnson, I think, was who Marilyn was working with to get a story that she would approve. I don't know whether they were keeping Cukor involved.
One of the mistakes I made was I didn't confer with Cukor, which I should have done. It may have saved me problems towards the end. I was reluctant to do so because Cukor was working with Gene Allen, and I just thought I would undercut all of that.
Cukor was furious to be left out of the meetings. He felt that Johnson's version strayed too far from the original charm of My Favorite Wife. Within 2 months, Nunnally Johnson was replaced with a writer named Walter Bernstein.
Johnson had written a script, and I have no idea whether he then had, whatever reason he had left it, whether he had died or whether, I really didn't know. All I knew was that I got a call from George Cukor.
By now, script rewrites alone had brought the production $300,000 over budget, a problem that only seemed to mirror the larger financial crisis confronting 20th Century Fox. Cleopatra was still running massively over budget, and Fox was panicking from the escalating costs. The company was going broke, and fast.
First we got notes that we should water our own plants because the greensmen had been fired. Then we got notes that the cafeteria was going to, because there was nobody there. So I said, don't worry about it, I'm eating my plants. It's true. I mean, there was no, it was like a ghost town.
A dark cloud seemed to hover over the production of Something's Got to Give. And Marilyn Monroe now had more to accomplish and more to prove than ever before. By late March 1962, there were only 3 short weeks left before the first day of principal photography. The race was on to meet the tight deadline. As George Cukor and Walter Bernstein pounded out a new draft of the script, associate producer Gene Allen oversaw completion of the set, an exact replica of Cukor's own home and backyard. The costume department worked overtime to pull the wardrobe together for the entire cast. And producer Henry Weinstein struggled to keep track of Marilyn Monroe.
He was a prisoner, really, of the situation. I had very little to do with him. His main preoccupation was Marilyn, you know, how to get her there, how to keep her working, you know, and it was thankless. It was just a thankless job.
On April 10th, the punctual Marilyn arrived on the set for makeup and costume tests. But to her surprise, George Cukor did not show up to supervise and direct.
And I think it was a big mistake for Cukor not to have done that, because she was there at her best, and she had to take it as a put-down. I'm sure she did.
But despite Cukor's absence, Marilyn's performance convinced everyone that she was in top form.
And I was so happy because they were brilliant. I mean, she looked extraordinary. She was at her best.
Weinstein couldn't wait to share his enthusiasm with the star herself. But when Marilyn was several hours late for their scheduled meeting, the producer raced over to her home in nearby Brentwood.
When I come there and she's spread across her bed, practically nude and really out. So I called Romy up, and then we called her internist, and they came running over. And this was the first time, and I knew we were in trouble.
Weinstein was shocked at the sight of Marilyn Monroe, unconscious from an apparent overdose of sleeping pills.
And I went to the studio and I said, listen, we got to postpone this picture. I don't think she's going to be ready. We're going to start shooting in about 3 weeks. And said, what happened? She said, oh, no, you're being melodramatic. I said, I tell you, the girl is not able to do this yet. I said, if I came and told you she just had a heart attack, what would you do? She said, well, we would wait. I said, what's the difference? He says, she had a heart attack, we couldn't get insurance. With this, we can.
They felt that she was in somewhat out of control, but still very bankable movie star. And whatever personal problems she had, they felt could be dealt with.
Marilyn's habit of mixing champagne with sleeping pills was well known in Hollywood, and this latest incident rang few warning bells.
The first time I actually got to the house, she had some champagne and she'd taken a couple of sleeping pills she had, and Dr. Greenson became worried, and so she gave me a key to her apartment, and I carried it all the time so I could get in, if I had to, quickly. When she moved out to the Helenas in Brentwood, we had a key to the house in a fuchsia plant that was hanging in front of the front door.
We know now. We know things that we didn't know then. I mean, that's just deadly.
Marilyn had grown dependent on sleeping pills during her rise to fame in Hollywood. She was plagued by insomnia and for the past 2 years sought almost daily psychological treatment from Dr. Greenson to ease her emotional pain.
We knew that she was a manic depressive, which is now called bipolar personality. I think the name manic depressive is better, it's more descriptive. And that always meant that there were emotional problems and that she could have big swings in her moods.
Marilyn was impressed with Dr. Greenson's warmth and understanding. Traditional patient-doctor boundaries soon dissolved, and Marilyn became like an extended member of the doctor's family.
She would eat at his house. Had a small house in Santa Monica with a pool. She would eat there because he wanted to show Marilyn what a normal family was like. I put the words normal in quotes, but so it was really quite simple. And he saw her at his house. He didn't see her at his office. He did everything that was possible, but I mean, he saw the real problems that were Marilyn and tried to keep her functioning.
But with just 5 days to go before cameras would roll on Something's Got to Give, producer Henry Weinstein feared that a solution to Monroe's emotional problems and chemical dependency was eluding even her psychiatrist. Weinstein was left to wonder if Marilyn could ever fully recover from what truly ailed her. 3 days after Marilyn's April 10th overdose, she attended a script meeting for Something's Got to Give. Outwardly unfazed by the events just days before, Marilyn focused her attention on the script and tried to establish a working relationship with writer Walter Bernstein.
One time I went to her house to talk about a particular scene, and she had some ideas about the scene. And it was a very cordial meeting. You know, she was very, very nice, except you also got the impression you were in the presence of Caesar. I mean, she would refer to herself sometimes in the third person. About a moment in a scene, she'd say, "Oh no, Monroe wouldn't do this," you know. And she was very shrewd about her own image as she saw it.
With the script still incomplete, Q-Corp postponed principal photography 1 week to April 23rd. Marilyn promptly left for New York to work on her role with acting coach Lee Strasberg.